Chinje, a veteran journalist and a political commentator, has sent a direct warning to Cameroonians. He has sent a direct warning to Cameroonians about the future of their country in a non-partisan. Today, we examine one of the most sobering assessments of Cameroon's political future. A future at crossroads. A future giving every Cameroonian goosebumps, and a future that needs all hands on deck. Eric Chinje, a veteran journalist and a political commentator, has sent a direct warning to Cameroonians. He has sent a direct warning to Cameroonians about the future of their country. In a non-partisan message during an interview with Chris Anu, he painted a picture of a nation standing at crossroads. He called on Cameroonians to wake up before the country called Cameroon slips away between their fingers. Is slipping away. His appeal is clear and simple. Cameroonians must act to preserve their country before events overtake them. That you must act like now to preserve your country. In one of his strongest statements, Eric says, play the clip.
That this country is at the edge of a precipice. It can blow up. And those of us who want to save Cameroon, you, the three of us here, and the millions of others who stand, share our position.
He says Cameroon is at the edge of a precipice. This phrase summarizes everything happening in Cameroon. A country standing at the edge of precipice has not yet fallen, but is hanging on a cliff, and any wrong move can be very, very fatal. I mean, any little thing can be very, very fatal in Cameroon. According to Eric, the country's institutions have weakened and are near collapse. He says that almost all institutions in Cameroon have lost the confidence of a large section of the population, and that is true. And he says citizens have stopped believing that any institution in Cameroon can resolve the political statement Cameroonians find themselves in peacefully. Underline the word peacefully. It is virtually impossible for any institution in Cameroon, maybe the Constitutional Council, the Supreme Court, Parliament, or the Senate, they cannot resolve Cameroon's problem peacefully. The uncertainty in which Cameroonians find themselves today is more dangerous than the political upheavals Cameroonians have had over the years, ranging from the time, around 1992 when elections were stolen from Fronde, to when Kamto won his own election and, the word President Élu came up. And just yesterday, when Issa Chiroma also claimed he defeated Paul Biya and it was stolen. The truth is that every democracy in the world experiences disagreement, even in America and many other places. But what distinguishes stable nations from unstable ones is whether their institutions remain strong enough to manage those disagreements peacefully. In the case of Cameroon, Biya and friends intentionally, I say intentionally, weaken the institutions with the sole aim of setting the country ablaze after them. They say, après moi, le déluge. Something I can literally translate as, after I am gone, whatever happens doesn't concern me. Or, let others deal with the consequences after I am gone. Or, I don't care what happens once I leave. And they believe that the future is someone else's future and not theirs, and that the future is not even their problem. That has been the modus operandi of Paul Biya and his friends. They don't care about the future of this country. They don't think about it even for one bit because they've stolen enough and amassed in foreign countries. Biya wants the country after him to be chaotic so that Cameroonians may look back and think that he was the only one who could govern Cameroon, that he was the only one who could maintain peace in Cameroon, and that he was the only one who could manage a diverse country like Cameroon. But all is false. He is basically responsible for the chaos in this country today, for the chaos we have right now as I speak. Biya is responsible. No other person, Biya and his friends in the CPDM. Another concern Eric raised in that interview is that rather than discussing national development, the government in place has been paralyzed for years and too much attention has shifted toward who controls power, who may inherit power in the future. And that is because when political competition becomes focused almost entirely on succession instead of governance, the machinery of government is killed and the people suffer because one, no major reforms can be achieved, no reforms even in Elekam or wherever, no long-term planning can be made. Cameroon does not have anything long-term. And three, civil servants hesitate to carry out their duty. Go to Yaoundé to follow your documents. Go to the offices and see what is happening. And four, investors become cautious. And the result is exactly what we have in Cameroon today, a national paralysis. One of Eric's observations is that Cameroon needs to advance and can't do that with this present government that is entirely corrupt. Because this government is corrupt, is deficient, is incompetent in all aspects. In his view, the uncertainty itself has become a national burden because nothing is actually working and the public debt is bloating. Is bloating. He warns that a country can gradually lose its economic freedom through excessive borrowing. When you borrow excessively, and that is exactly where Cameroon finds itself now, as we speak. Play the clip.
They don't care about schools and hospitals and roads or transforming our natural agricultural produce. They don't care about that. That's not a preoccupation for them. They're leaving Mutaze to go around the world begging. And Mutaze knows that the world is not ready to give Cameroon anything, substantially, except at extremely high interest rates. Because you cannot take a country to jail, but you can imprison a country by putting it in debt. And when the time comes, when you're indebted, and if you don't pay, they go to the IMF. And if the IMF tells you, you've got to pay, and if you don't, you have no more access.
You cannot take a country to jail, but you can imprison a country by putting it in debt. According to him, being in debt is not necessarily harmful by itself, but the danger, as in the case with Cameroon, is that when borrowed resources fail to generate productive economic growth, or when future governments inherit obligations that limit their ability to invest in development, that becomes a recipe for a failed state. And that is the recipe that Cameroon is right in now, a failed state. Biya and his cronies have made it in such a way that the next governors of this country might find it difficult to succeed economically. You know, the CPDM government has failed to invest and devote attention to schools, to building hospitals, to building roads, to industrial development and agriculture. These are the pillars and foundation on which a solid nation is built for lasting national prosperity. But Biya and his CPDM cronies have rather invested in alcohol, car riding, football, embezzlement, corruption, and to crown it all, they've invested in leisure trips abroad. And this is why Eric thinks, play the clip, play the clip.
We've got to have our voices heard or we'll lose a country. And Chris, I know that you're leaning in one way, but we all want that geographical space to be protected, whether we like it or not, because our families, our friends, our sisters and brothers, they all belong within that space.
We've got to have our voices heard or we will lose a country. This statement alone shows you that the agency, how important, how fast Cameroonians must act to rescue this country from the hands of fraudsters. Cameroonians must become more active, more devoted, and more woke to put this gang of embezzlers to a halt and rescue this country called Cameroon. You know, waiting for politicians like Kamto, Isa Chiroma, or C. Joshua is no longer necessary at all. It is not enough. Something needs to be done. Something different ought to be done. Instead of all citizens, intellectuals, professionals, religious leaders, traditional authorities, and members of civil society to stay aloof, they must rally now, like now, to save this country from total collapse. Play the clip.
To correct the ills of our society in the coming weeks, I would say in the coming months at the very most. And we're going to have to do it and save the country, or we're going to see a country with so much promise collapse on Mondovision, in front of the.
Eric says, we are going to have to do it and save the country, or we are going to see a country with so much promise collapse. That's what he says. And this is absolutely very true. If Cameroonians don't react now, do something, and get into good trouble, they will get into really, really bad trouble sooner than later, sooner than they thought. Preserving this country cannot be left in the hands of political elite. They are corrupt, irresponsible, and careless. Ordinary citizens must play a role through civic engagement, demanding accountability, supporting stronger institutions and not strong dictators like Paul Biya and the rest. You know, the choice facing Cameroonians today is just one choice. It is about how to preserve a nation whose future depends on the decisions they will make today. I mean, like now. If they don't stand up today, they will have no country again in the next few weeks or months. You know, some people think that Amber boys are bad or call them Amazonians. No, they are not. They are doing a great job. They have chosen to fight rather than die in the desert in Libya, get drowned in the ocean attempting to cross to Europe, or be killed by wild animals in the jungles of South America attempting to get into America. I mean, they've chosen to stay back home and fight and liberate the country. Let Cameroonians know one thing. Amber boys are not your enemies, despite their excesses and the fact that most of them have been derailed by malicious intent. They are not your enemies. They are the brave ones who have chosen to stay back and fight because they don't see any future if they don't fight for themselves. And please, before I go, I just want to thank you immensely for subscribing. If you haven't yet, please do so and let's build together. And always remember to stay woke, stay alert. This is your country. You have no other country anywhere. Fight for it. Get into good trouble and make sure that you hold your politicians accountable.